I'm recording.
We'll go.
Okay.
You ready?
Yep.
And
Here we go.
stop!
Marc Moore, welcome to my podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, Dom.
Can I start by sharing the little off-mic moment that happened?
Yeah, totally.
So you were very courteous. You just went to put your phone into flight mode, and it was me who reminded you that you're on baby watch at the moment.
So pig-headed. I can't believe I forgot about that for that brief moment. I think it's probably because I'm a little bit nervous about doing the podcast, and sometimes, when you're a bit nervous, you forget things.
Are you nervous?
So hopefully my partner, my wife, doesn't see this because she'll be like, "You're going to put your phone on flight mode and we're about to have a baby any day?"
The due date's like five days away. It's your first baby. And normally come after the due date, they say. But are you nervous about doing?
Yeah, I always get nervous about these things. We're sort of talking off mic before, but I've always been not the greatest communicator verbally. I'm a person that communicates great with written word. I can write you the most insane email that will express my emotions and everything, and then you'll write me an email back, and I've got time to process it, and then I'll send you another email back. Fuck, it's a lot of bullshit, not doing the verbal communication.
It's that's the creative in you, I guess.
It is, yeah, and I think a lot of creatives they're quite sensitive people, and they do struggle with communication, verbal communication, and that's why they become creatives, because the stuff or the things that they create or the brands they create, the products they create, that's how they communicate to the world. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's quite. Yeah, it does. It makes perfect sense. It does seem like there's this big sort of juxtaposition between this amazing brand that you've created and the dude behind it, because you are like we know each other sort of briefly in passing over the years, and you're like quite a sensitive guy. You wear your heart on your sleeve. You've got this I don't give a fuck you sort of brand, which is very black, very skull and snake heavy. Yeah,
I'm a walking contradiction in that way. Sometimes I feel like it's quite odd, isn't it? The sensitive guy, but also I like the rock and roll sort of aesthetic a lot, and that can be quite dark and angsty, but then I'm very soft and feminine, and I think that's probably to do with my heritage really, and my parents and how they were as people, because I'm basically a combination of them.
Of course.
And if we break that down, I mean my father was a rock star in the 70s and 80s, and a wildly successful one at that. He didn't have anything to do with me. But then my mother was like this amazing artist and very spiritual and, very sensitive and stuff. And so, yeah, I'm the combination of those guys.
Of course you are. Yeah, and we want to get into all of that. I actually just noticed you took your jacket off and you've got a tattoo on your left arm saying "in loving memory" of
Marc Hunter.
Marc Hunter, that's your dad.
This is my first tattoo, actually.
And the band that you're talking about that he was involved with was a band called Raglan.
Yeah.
And actually he's the writer and the performer of one of the biggest songs in New Zealand history, "April Sun in Cuba."
So good.
Thankfully, he sung, but he didn't write the problematic song "Are You Old Enough?"
Yeah. Greatest.
But we'll get into that, because it's a fascinating story, because he was kind of an absent dad, and his the sort of apex of his success was, I suppose, when you were a toddler, like 3, 4, 5 years old.
Yeah.
But then as you were getting older, he kept on like popping up again with like songs like "Young Years" in the 90s. Yeah. So there's a lot to unpack with that. First, I'm keen to focus on the brand a little bit.
Yeah, let's do it.
So Stolen Girlfriends Club, it's almost 20 years old.
Fuck. It just blows me away to even hear that.
Yeah.
It doesn't register that often. I mean, sometimes you probably don't stop to smell the roses. So you're like, the time goes by so fast. 20 years, fuck.
Yeah.
What an achievement!
Like I mean, it is. How have you survived when there's the fashion landscape? It's full of corpses.
It's brutal. How do we survive? I mean, never taking your foot off the gas. That's one thing. And then this is going to sound kind of bad, but I'm never content. I always think we can do better. Even when we've had success, I'm like, oh, there was something wrong with that. Like, we could have done this better. And I think almost that's helped us survive all these years, because we've never been content to just rest on our laurels, you know? And a lot of people do get into that sort of state, and that's the most dangerous state. That's when people come and steal your furniture, you know? You're not even aware. You're just zenning out, and you're so like content with what you've done. And we've never been like that. We've always been challenging ourselves to always improve, to, you know, we're on this quest to design the perfect product, and it probably never exists, but, you know, that keeps you going, and that keeps you working through, I think, adversity as well, because in fashion, it's always going to be tough. It's never going to be easy. There's no elevator to the top. You know, you got to take the fucking stairs.
Yeah, well, it's a growth mindset thing, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
Like just never being sort of satisfied or content.
totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
So where did it start? What are the origins? So it was an art exhibition. You weren't even thinking about starting your own label.
There was a little bit of a thought there, but not so much. Not a fully developed idea as such. But at the time, I was a huge avid surfer. Surfing was a big part of my life, and I had a snowboarding accident. It wasn't bad, but it fucked my back, lower back, like L5 S1 disc bulge hitting on my spine. I couldn't really walk that much. It was terrible. I was losing my mind because I couldn't surf, and so I picked up the paintbrushes because I remember kind of enjoying art at school, and I was kind of good at it, and my mother's an amazing artist. So I picked up the paintbrushes, started painting, and then I was like, fuck, I've got to turn this into an art show, you know? I could have a one-night gallery and have all these paintings that I've created, but I need a theme for that, you know? I need a story. And so at the time when I was sort of thinking about the idea for this artwork that I was working on, I landed on this theme, Stolen Girlfriends Club, because I'd always witnessed my mum kind of dating guys that were kind of douchebags when I was young. And it made me always wonder, like, why do girls accept love like this, you know, like when they're so much better? And I noticed this with girlfriends that I would go out with too, and some of their ex-boyfriends would be arseholes. And so I invented this kind of fictional group, the Stolen Girlfriends Club, that would steal girls away from shitty relationships, basically. Yeah, and that formed the idea. It was cute. It was really cute back then. And I did all these like paintings. It was like acrylic on canvas, and some of these like big window pieces that were from old villas with big words, slogan kind of play. And had the art exhibition. The Herald covered it. It was full. Stella Artois sponsored it, Red Bull sponsored it, and then Oyster Magazine in Sydney actually presented it. So it became this big deal, even though I essentially wasn't an artist. I was a rookie. I was making it up as I was going along. And then everyone came, and we sold all the artworks on one night. Fucking crazy. And, you know, the artwork wasn't that great, but it was the idea. People loved the theme more than the art, I think. And that taught me a lot right then about branding and having a story to tell. Yeah.
Because you were quite old at the time, eh? Like late 20s.
I love how you say quite old.
No, it feels like it's, I don't know, like, I suppose that's a late bloomer in terms of like having your first art exhibition. And
28, I think, when I had the art exhibition. And you're right, I mean, fuck, I was a late bloomer. I've been a late bloomer with everything in my life. You know, I don't think I got, like, hairs on my balls till I was like 18. It was so fucking embarrassing at school. I had like this high-pitched voice, and then mum was like, don't you worry, mate. When you're like 50, you're going to look way younger than everyone else.
Oh my God, I was exactly the same. I went to an all-boys school, and we you know, it was my best mate Matthew. He was a late bloomer as well. And then one day in PE, it was like, oh, fuck. Matthew's got hair on his balls now. So I was the very last. I was so self-conscious about it. To the point, like, I started shaving my underarms in the hope that it would, like, whatever wasn't there in the first place,
that too.
Would grow back quicker.
I'm jealous of you, though, because you had someone to share that journey with.
Matthew.
I was alone. It was tough, man. We didn't have the internet to, like, Google what the fuck's happening to me.
Right. It was terrifying out there. Okay, so how do you go from having this art exhibition to becoming... what do? You start by screen printing a couple of T-shirts? What?
So at the time, we'd both, me and my friend Luke Harwood, we'd both been working in the surf industry for a long time, and very disillusioned with the surf industry because it was just all about selling units and making money, and not really about creativity as much. It was about, you know, filling the stores as full of stock as you could, and then watching, you know, all the units fly out the door. And so we were kind of like, fuck, we want to start something that's more about creativity and art. and we want to make something that matters. And so we're like, fuck, we should start a brand one day. And this was just after or around the time of the exhibition. And so we're like, let's call it Stolen Girlfriends Club, because that name really resonated with a lot of people, and we need a great name. And so we had this idea to design the best T-shirt in the world. It was a little different to the one you're wearing. Actually, it had a really low scoop neck, really tight cap sleeves, and then an unusually long, narrow body that was almost knee length. At the time, we thought it was the best fucking T-shirt in the world, and now I wouldn't wear it. I wouldn't be caught dead in it. But
have you still got one somewhere? Like it's one
we've
frame?
We've got one in the archive at work. Yeah, the original first one. But it was revolutionary at the time, and it was the right place, right time. People loved it. We also had a slogan print on it. It was like a tribute to Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Frankie Says Relax. It was like Stolen Girlfriends Club Says Relax, as you're wearing today, the black on black version.
By the way, I'm as you know, I'm a huge fan of your brand. And I pulled this one out today specifically because it's the oldest shirt I've got, I think.
Yeah.
The oldest stolen shirt.
It's what we would call vintage,
right? Like
ourselves. Yeah, and so, I mean, we did the slogan tee. We did just a few units, but it was, again, right place, right time, because slogan prints hadn't been popular since sort of the 80s, I guess. And then they were kind of coming back around, because everything's cyclical in fashion. And so we were at the forefront of when slogan prints were coming back into fashion. Not that we had actively created that on purpose. It was just, again, right place, right time. And so the slogan thing blew up, and then all of a sudden, all of the magazines wanted to borrow these 2 fucking T-shirts that we'd printed. And then before we knew it, we were in every magazine and every editorial, and then the phones were ringing and going, where can I get this T-shirt? We hadn't even learnt how to do production yet. We didn't have factories. So there was that. And then on the other side, we had wanted to make jewelry for ourselves, and we were struggling to find jewelry that we loved at the time, because everything was really masculine, and we felt like super kind of cliche rock and roll, like giant skulls and big snakes, everything a little bit kind of garish. And then on the other side, everything was really classic, like beautiful, like Tiffany's engagement rings and stuff like that. And so we wanted something that was kind of rock and roll and attitude, but also had some femininity to it, a little bit androgynous. And so that's how our jewelry was also born. It was a product of that time, 2005, I think the year was. And so we have this slogan tee that's popping off, and then we have this jewelry that just feels different to everything else that's out there at the moment. It spoke to a certain group of people that really kind of embraced it.
You must have thought did you think you were a genius? You had this art exhibition, then you thought you'd get into clothing, and suddenly it just pops off. You must have thought.
So me now, I was about to say, no, we didn't think we were geniuses, but then I had to tap into younger Marc, 28, 30-year-old Marc. We thought we were fucking geniuses at the time. Man, you just think you're so cool when you're young. You're out to get the recognition and stuff, and you're out to shake shit up, and we thought we were kind of geniuses.
But you were, it worked. It resonated straight away.
It was a lot of luck too, and maybe I'm big on intuition. I've always had a crazy intuition. I get that from my mother. So there was a bit of that, but fuck, we're still not geniuses, right? We're always learning.
Did you think then that 20 years on you'd still be doing it? And
I did. I did believe that. Yeah. What I felt like I was creating was forever. And I'm old school. I wanted to create something that would last forever, that maybe my kids could work at one day, or family could work, and friends could. Well, no, maybe something that friends can't work at, because I've made that mistake too many times in my life.
Oh, have you? Yeah, like commercializing friendships. Yeah, because you mentioned Luke before. So he was like your BFF. Are you still? Is he still involved in the business? You still mates?
No, we don't speak. We haven't spoken for a long time. And actually, it's quite heartbreaking when I think about it, because, we were best friends. I was the best man at his wedding and stuff. And, we created this thing initially together, and we were both dreamers and very creative. The only problem was we both wanted to be the same thing in the company. So we both wanted to be the creative director, I guess. That was sort of the skills that we both had. And in hindsight, if we had a different set of skills that complemented each other, it would have worked. But it was really tough. Like in the first couple of years, obviously you don't take a salary from the business, and I don't think we took a salary for 3 years or so while we were building this thing from scratch. And we're building it in the weekends and the evenings after work. And I think after the first year, there was a lot of media attention. We started getting a lot of traction, but not sales, right? And Luke made the decision to move to Sydney to chase his girlfriend, trying to get her back or something. And he just left me to sort of run this new thing, which I'm running in my spare time, you know, and it was a lot. And he just left, and that was a pretty tough sort of pill to swallow for me. But I accepted it, and I let him sort of do that. And then he came back sort of a couple years later, and then we sort of let him back into the business. And he was actually reluctant to come back into the business, in all fairness. He was like, you know, I probably don't deserve a shot here because I've gone off and, you know, chased the girlfriend while, you know, you've built this thing by yourself, basically. And so we let him in because he's your best mate. What do you do? And then we got another couple of years, and then we started getting some traction. Then we were able to pull small salaries out of the business, but mediocre at best. You know, you pay other people more than you pay yourself when you're a startup. And then, yeah, he just wanted to move overseas again. He wanted to move to America and live the American dream, but we were just never big enough to fund one of the directors chasing his dream and moving overseas. Like, it's just hands-on when you're a small business and you start up. You can't have like silent partners, and you can't have directors that are not working in the business 24/7.
Yeah, it's like dead weight in a way, isn't it?
It was, yeah, dead weight. Yeah, I couldn't put it couldn't put it better than that. But yeah, it was tough, and I'm a bit of a softie, so, you know, I kind of probably let him take a little bit of advantage with that and me being soft. And but we had a mentor at the stage, this lady, Penny Thompson, she was a battle axe, man. She ran Estee Lauder, like Australasia, she was the only like female CEO they'd had or something like that for years. And she was our mentor at the time, and she was like, this is bullshit, we're not putting up with this, you know. She was almost the one that kind of pulled us in line and stuff, and was often quite kind of a mediator. But she was like, look, we just can't afford to pay a director that's living overseas. It's just not realistic. And I think this was when the global recession, the global financial crisis, is that what we call it?
All the banks were
GFC.
collapsing. Yeah.
The GFC. So
maybe 2008, 2007?
Yeah, 2008 through to 2010 was a really tough time, because we had like representation with showrooms, and like I think we had Tokyo, London, New York, and Sydney at that time. So we were starting to do all right. And then when the recession hit, we basically got dropped by all these beautiful stores like Liberties of London and Resteur in Tokyo. And then overnight, we were paying more for our showrooms and our PR representation in these cities than we were getting back in sales. So we basically folded the whole thing and brought it all back to New Zealand. So it kind of coincided with a lot of ways with Luke trying to like live that American dream, but we weren't selling any product anywhere but New Zealand at that stage. We had to withdraw the business. It's just the realities of doing business, you know. And I mean, you have a lot of heart, especially when you're a sensitive, creative dude and you're young and trying to like navigate your way through it. But you've also got to think with your head a little bit. Yeah.
So when was the last time you guys spoke?
So he came back briefly, and he was like, okay, I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to work in the business. And we're like, cool. And he's like, I'm going to be CEO because I don't feel like you're doing that great a job. I was like, okay, fair enough. Because again, I'm a creative trying to like run this whole business and do everything. And, you know, I probably wasn't that great at it. I was definitely working outside my skill set. So he stepped in for a while, and then he got over it after about 6 to 9 months, I think. And then he was like, fuck, I don't like New Zealand and I want to move back to America again. And then that was it. And then our mentor stepped in and she was like, we can't pay you a salary if you move. We need you like all hands on deck in New Zealand right now. It's a tough time for the business. We're cash flow negative, and so it was a really tough time, really tough thing to go through. And you know, this is my best mate, and we didn't talk. I don't think we spoke again after that. When he just was like, I'm leaving, I don't care. Went to America, never heard from him again. And I think we got a lawyer's letter from him maybe 6 months later saying he wants out of the business. It's just going to sell to the first person that comes along, which was pretty tough. So we had to get on this mad scramble to sort of find a new business partner that would have skills that they could bring to the business that would actually grow the business. Yeah, crazy journey.
It's tough, because there'd be something, it'd be an incredible journey to go on with your best friend. Like you're like, fuck, bro, can you believe we're doing this? But by the same token, if the relationship goes sour, then you potentially lose a mate in it as well.
The first 5 years were incredible, like totally like ups and downs, but some of the best moments that I'll always remember. We did some crazy shit together. We unleashed a fire hose on this nightclub in Sydney one time at Sydney Fashion Week, just because we were being assholes and being a bit cheeky. But we were just like,
you're in your 30s by then.
But we would always dare each other to do the most stupidest shit, and we were very immature. But we had some fun, you know.
Well, that's cool. How have you navigated the creative versus the business side of things? Because they're very different skill sets. So, and you can't expect someone to be good at everything, right? And you're very good at the creative side of things. So how difficult was that?
It's been a really tough journey. So, you know, again, being a small business owner and being the guy sort of in sole charge, I did have to sort of run everything. I had to run the operation, so doing the hiring and firing and taking care of like lease negotiations and stuff like that. And that leaves little time and room for being a creative. And as a creative, having white space and like, you know, downtime is equally as important as like when you're doing the work and coming up with the ideas, but you need both to really come up with beautiful ideas that are going to work. So running the business there, I was running out of creativity pretty quick. I was pretty burnt out. I mean, there was days where I didn't want to go to work, and you have this feeling of being a constant failure when you're like not actually focusing on your strengths. So I was spending all my energy trying to be good at being like an operations manager, whereas I should have been focused on the creative side, because that's where I was good at, and that's where the business would benefit from.
Yeah, and get a good operations manager and give them like a canvas, see how the fuck they get on.
Yeah, yeah, true. So I'm not a good one for sort of asking that question about the balance of you know, business and creativity. And then there's the argument of so I'm all about creating cool shit, right? I'm not about sort of designing stuff that sells millions of units. That doesn't get me out of bed in the morning. So that's a conundrum there as well. So because with business, you know, it's about the balance of art and commerce. You need both.
Yeah. Is that a constant battle? You must have business development managers saying, you know, fast fashion, or, you know.
Yeah, it's a constant battle. Luckily, I have really good people around me. I have structure now, and you need that. You know, creativity still needs discipline and structure. Otherwise, it just becomes fucking fairy dust.
Why isn't that your goal? Are you just not driven by money, or? It's not
I mean,
your
I'm getting more driven by money as I get older. But there's also part of me when I was younger, you're almost afraid to admit that too, you know, because fuck, Kiwis hate that when you know, you admit that you're sort of, you know, doing this for money. But as I'm getting older, I am like, I want to make money out of this. But that's probably my sort of focus or logic on that has shifted because I'm about to have a baby, and I think that really puts shit into perspective, you know. It's not just about me. I want to provide for my family, and I want to grow this thing so it can be a success, and maybe one day we could sell it, or maybe one day it'll just be a huge family business. I don't know. But I want to grow this thing, and I want to make money out of it.
Yeah. Are you proud of where it's at?
I am really proud of where it's at, yeah. It's been a crazy, as you say, 20 years almost. I think it's 19 years and a bit. It's been an incredible journey, huge highs and lows. I don't know if I'd go through it again, if I'm honest. But it's helped to shape me into the person that I am today, and I feel a lot wiser for it. I've got a lot of fortitude for it.
Yeah, say if you took like a drone eye view on it over the past 20 years, what are like some of the pivotal moments, or sort of like tipping point moments?
I mean, our first sort of few years when we were the new kids on the block was pretty crazy and a bit of a whirlwind, bit of a roller coaster, almost like you'd want to make a film out of it. It was pretty cool, like our sort of not rise to fame, but yeah, it was quite quick for those days. I mean, this is before social media. It was more like word of mouth, you know. But we had this almost notoriety, or we were quite infamous. We were the bad boys of fashion, you know. And media loves to give you like some
lock up your
tag
fire
like
hoses.
Yeah. And we kind of, I guess, we played up to that in a way because we felt like fashion needed that at the time. It was a bit stale, and it was a bit elitist as well at the time, and we kind of wanted to smash that down a little bit. So that was a great moment the first few years, and that sort of rise to almost fame. But then there's been times along the way that, like, I guess our first fashion show at New Zealand Fashion Week, when we didn't really feel like we were a serious fashion brand, you know, and then they had invited us to Fashion Week, and then we had sponsorship on the table so we could actually do a show. That was an incredible moment for us because I realized the importance of the brand and how we could bring people together. our first show there was 1,200 people in this tent. It was oversubscribed, and the atmosphere was electric. We'd grown up going to fashion shows, and they were always very quiet. People were just sort of looking at each other and seeing what everyone was wearing, and very serious, critiquing the clothes. And we were like, fuck, we want our shows to be like part runway show, because we're serious about our craft, but we want people to have a fucking good time, even if they're not there to critique the fashion or they're not from the fashion industry. And so we were like, our shows need to be half runway show, half party, half rave party, half rock and roll gig, And so there was this really electric atmosphere with the shows that we created. So that's always been a highlight, all the shows that we've done at Fashion Week over the years. Another highlight for me, or what I'm proud of with the business, and it's going to sound a bit soppy, a bit sappy, but I'm really proud of, we created something from nothing, and not a lot of people can say that. I've always had this saying, like, something from nothing, thoughts become things. And that's basically, how to describe our brand. And now this thing that we created from nothing, it sort of employs 30 people. And it gives them careers, and I take a lot of pride out of that.
Yeah, you should.
It chokes me up, actually, because it's one of the biggest buzzes I get from the business. And I never thought that would be one of the biggest buzzes when we were young and starting this thing. Navigating it through, recessions and pandemics and stuff, that's another thing that I'm proud of, that we were agile enough to get through some of that shit.
Yeah, hiring that many people, that is something to be proud of. Hey, I think that's something really fucking cool. What about the celebrity factor? How do you get celebrities on board? Like Teddy Swims, he was in the country last week. I saw him in some stolen gear. Tove Lo, is she a friend or a fan? What's the relationship?
She's a good friend.
Right.
Yeah, she's one of my best friend's wives. So yeah, I said that like he's got multiple wives.
One of his.
Wouldn't surprise me.
How do these relationships come about? Are they sort of organic, like this?
They're quite organic. We've always been very happy-go-lucky with that side of things. So we haven't since we withdrew from like all our PR offices around the world and stuff. We've sort of had to bootstrap it and do a lot of it ourselves. So there's been a lot of good opportunities that have come from it through people that we know. Those are always the best opportunities, through people that you know. I remember there was this one time, and I had a stylist friend who was working up in Los Angeles, and I think this was 2015 or 16. And she was like, hey, send me some stuff up, like, on DHL or something. I'm styling a music video for the Weeknd, like next weekend. And we were like, fuck, okay, he's pretty cool. And, he's got a lot of followers and stuff. So we prepared a kind of a care package and just sent this up to her. And a few weeks later, I was like, oh, how did the shoot go? How did our stuff look like in the shoot? And she was like, oh, so sorry, we went a different direction. The other stylist just didn't think it was working for the video. And I was like, oh no. And she was like, but there is this. And then she just sent me this photo, and it's the Weeknd performing with Taylor Swift. I think the song was I Can't Feel My Face.
Oh my God, yeah, one of his biggest hits.
Yeah, and they were performing it together, and he was wearing this bomber that we'd made on the stage with this crazy panther on it, and it was all like tapestry, like woven. It was like a bogan blanket, but made high fashion. And here he is wearing it on the stage, and it was incredible, and that went round the world.
Yeah. So when that happens, that must be immensely satisfying for you.
Huge moment.
Yeah. And does it reflect in immediate sales of that garment?
No.
It's an ego boost, really.
Everyone that's watching and listening has probably wanted me to say, yes, we sold 100,000 units. But that's the problem with us. We've always produced in really tiny runs. And I think that jacket, we probably made 40 units in hindsight.
Right.
We've always produced small runs. That's what we're about. It builds more value into our product if not everyone can get the same thing. So we didn't see a lot of sales in that jacket, but it gets our brand on the map in the world and creates brand awareness, and that stuff's really important. And you can't measure how far that goes.
Yeah, and I suppose good for team morale in the office for you and your 30 staff. Who else is there? Miley. Miley wore your gear, eh?
Yeah, she was wearing our sunglasses, actually, and again, that was through a friend of a friend. So
amazing.
Miley was here with her stylist, and then it was a mate of mine that was hanging out with the stylist. In a nice way. Yeah, we were sleeping together, I think. And he was like, hey, give me some shit and I'll give it to the stylist, and then she'll give it to Miley. And so, yeah, the stylist came in and picked out a few things, and then Miley was wearing our sunglasses and stuff, and that was pretty cool.
Fuck, that's so cool. And the kid Leroy?
Yeah, so that one was, this is the best one actually, because we think that him, or maybe if he's got a stylist, they went and just bought this from our biggest account up in Canada, in Montreal, called Essence, this huge web store that we stock. And they stock a lot of these cardigans on there, and so yeah, they bought one from there, just like a regular consumer.
Amazing.
It's the most flattering thing ever.
Yeah, right? That's a huge endorsement. Do you give a lot of gear out to people that you've never heard of, and just on the hope it's going to pop
just
up?
hope like it pop, yeah. Not a lot.
Yeah,
not
yeah.
a lot. No, we like to cultivate relationships first. So
Yeah.
if there's some mutual appreciation, on the DMs and stuff, we've got the team that manage the social media, then, and if the person kind of is right, they've got the right look for the brand, then yeah, we'll start sending them some stuff, and it's quite cool.
Brilliant.
Quite natural.
We could talk about your business and the business side of things forever, but I'm keen to explore other aspects of your life.
Yeah, totally.
And we were messaging backwards and forwards the other day, and you were like, I want to go deep.
Yeah, it's time.
Because I do as much research as I can for these things, but you are quite enigmatic. There's not a lot about you out there.
No, been quite secretive, haven't I?
Yeah,
I haven't let a lot of people in.
Why is that?
I've just always been quite private, and even just with the way I communicate and stuff, I'm not super outward. Like, I guess my work is what does the talking for me. Even if I'm like with my friends, I'm not the one that's like butting in and coming in with a chat all the time. I'm happy just to sit back and observe a lot and take everything in and process. And I've always been like that, like a kind of a pretty chill, almost quiet demeanor. Yeah,
Kind of introspective in a way.
very introspective. And so I guess I haven't done a lot of media interviews. I haven't made myself available in that way or put myself out there so much. Yeah, whereas I probably should have been. But also there's a big self-confidence thing there, or a lack of self-confidence that would always, in my own head would hold me back from wanting to put myself out there, or why does your opinion matter, sit down.
It's quite funny. It just goes to show you can never judge someone from what you see on the outside, because everyone would assume that you're this I don't give a fuck badass just by the clothing you produce. But you are a sensitive dude.
But I'm the guy sitting at home crying while I'm watching Shark Tank.
Oh, some of them are very, very very emotional, aren't they? Oh my God, I can watch that show for hours. Do you watch it on Samsung TV?
Yes!
Oh my God.
There's a 24/7 channel devoted to Shark Tank. It is like utopia.
Samsung TV, are you fucking kidding me? It is the best free-to-air platform. There's 24-hour Judge Judy channels, Shark Tank channels,
Oh
whatever
my
you
God,
want.
Baywatch?
Yeah.
Me and my wife were talking about it the other day, and we're like, fuck, should we just cancel Netflix and Neon and Prime and just go all in on Samsung free TV?
There'll be so many people watching this or listening to this that have no idea what we're talking about. Get a Samsung. Okay, let's talk about your childhood. So you were
Okay.
born in Raglan? Born in Raglan?
Born in Auckland.
Okay.
Did a few years there, here. First 7 or 8 years, I believe. And then Mum moved me to Raglan. So Mum was a solo mum. She had me all by herself. She was 20 years old, 1975. That's going to show my age to everyone. That's great. She and my dad had been together for about 3 years prior. And then he had decided he was going to Australia to pursue the band. They were just starting to take off, I guess. And he was really young as well. I can't imagine what that would have been like in the 70s.
Yeah.
And he had heaps of groupies and other chicks he was hanging out with, very rock and roll.
Yeah.
So Mum decided to have me. Her parents basically disowned her. So she just had me totally all alone. All her friends told her not to have me. They were like, what the fuck are you doing? You're going to ruin your life. And remembering this is 1975, no playbook, no podcast to listen to, no TikTok influencers to teach you what to do. So she just purely instinct, just was like, I'm having this baby. Had me in Auckland. First 7 or 8 years here, and then realised I was deeply unhappy as a child, a little bit lost, very quiet, very insular. And for some reason, she just thought, I'm going to move to Raglan. This little seaside town, 2 hours south of here on the west coast, 3,000 or 4,000 people.
Yeah, I can't imagine what Raglan was like in the late 70s, early 80s. There wouldn't have been much going on though, right?
It was pretty cool. I mean, I'm gonna say it saved my life because
Why were you so unhappy at that age?
I don't know. Mum reckons I was always looking for something better, and she said I used to run away a lot, like when I was little. She reckoned when I was 4, I took off on my trike and rode off along the Newton Bridge and shit, and then the police picked me up. Fucking weird. But she was like, I was always hunting for something else, and I'm not going to blame it on my dad. I'm not here to put blame on him. He was young, but I've always felt like there was something missing in me, and I think that was maybe not having a father around. You know, there's this saying like most of us have holes in our souls the shape of our fathers. I love that saying, and it's true for a lot of people. And I've always felt like that, and I think maybe subconsciously when I was young too, just not having the father figure around, there always felt like there was something missing. But thank God, you know, Mum realised I was unhappy and a bit quiet and moved us to Raglan randomly, and that's where I fell in love with surfing, and that's where I think I found myself.
Yeah.
I found this thing that I got really fucking good at, and so I got significance out of surfing because I was good at it, and in turn that gave me self-confidence, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gave you some sort of validation.
Yeah.
Yeah, so your mum. Let's talk about your mum for a little bit. Victoria Moore. So this is a photo I found online. How good is that?
So cool.
Look at what's up with your hair? That's like it looks like an actual helmet.
I was gonna say it was a killer bowl cut, like the Kitchen Whiz, you know.
It is like proper bowl.
No, you called it. It's a fucking helmet. It's perfect. It's so symmetrical. So Mum was actually a hairdresser.
So she outsourced. She wasn't. Yeah. No.
So that was a piece of art. That one, the helmet. Yeah.
Yeah. So she was 20 when you were born.
20. Yep.
Yeah, and so her relationship with your dad, Marc. So they were together for
3 years, yeah. Off and on, she reckons. He would always sort of come back, fool around, come back.
Right.
And she always had a soft spot for him. You know, she was always like, that was the love of my life. She was like, there's never been a man like that. She just said his charisma and stuff was just, it was all-consuming, and he would just sort of attract people, you know.
Well, there's a book about his life called Chasing the Dragon, The Life and Death of Marc Hunter, and I haven't read it, but I read some reviews about it online, and it says he's had this just crazy charisma and talent, but it said he was like had narcissism and alcohol issues.
So destructive.
Just,
and it really affected people around him, unfortunately.
So what was your relationship like? You had a relationship with him?
No, not really. He would pop in and visit me randomly when he was back in New Zealand on some kind of tour or something. I have this vague memory. I think I would have been like, I could get this wrong, but I feel like I was about 8 or 7 or 8, and I remember that he came to visit me one night, and sort of Mum woke me up and was like, "This is your dad," and I was very shy, as you would be. So that was one of my earliest memories. And then I didn't hear from him for years. He went off and sort of started other families and stuff like that in Australia, and got married eventually, which is great, and had some great kids. But he was pretty quiet. He went quiet from about the age of sort of 8 or 9 through to 18 or so. I didn't hear from him.
That's so sad.
Yeah, it was quite sad. It breaks something inside of you, so you never feel like you're good enough, because you feel like you're not worthy because that person didn't choose you. And a lot of people that are listening to this or watching this will relate to that. You know, it just makes you feel a little bit broken. Yeah, like I'm not worthy, and you have that in your brain all the time, and that sort of forms your confidence or lack of.
Yeah, because JJ and I, when we were married, we had an internal family adoption. So one of her nephews came to live with us at 4 years and 11 months because JJ's brother, who was the kid's dad, he was being incarcerated, and this kid, it was heartbreaking for starters. He just had had this almost hero complex with his dad.
Yeah.
Did you have the?
I had the hero complex.
Yeah.
It didn't help that he was fucking famous. That made it so worse.
Because he was a hero to other people.
Fucking massive. It was like playing stadiums and shit, and people were like singing all the lyrics and stuff. And so I always had him on a pedestal. But then that made it worse that he was famous, this great man that everyone loved. You know, everyone would tell me stories about him. And here's this guy, this great man that didn't choose me. So it almost like puts salt in the wound. It makes it worse, you know.
That's tough. And that's got to be so tough for your mum as well. Like heartbreaking for her.
Yeah, I never really opened up about it much with mum, because she did an incredible job, and I didn't want to discount that, you know. But boys do need their fathers as well, you know, just like girls need their mums and shit like that. But yeah, it did give me a weird complex, and it really attacked my confidence majorly. But here's the weird thing about it. It also gave me this weird fuel. So I turned into a fuel. I'm good at fucking taking lemons and making lemonade out of it, right? So I use it as fuel, him not choosing me and me feeling not worthy. So anything that I would do, whether it was surfing, I was never naturally talented at surfing, but I applied myself way harder than anyone ever did to get myself to a level where I would be good at surfing, be in the magazines, be sponsored, doing well in competition so that my dad might notice. You know, that was why I did stuff. And if I started a fashion label, I would do it because I wanted my dad to notice, you know, all that stuff. Wanted him to be proud of me. So inadvertently, it gave me this fuel. But it also attacked my self-confidence, so I would always be quite quiet, never put myself forward for things, didn't really back myself in a lot of ways. So I was like almost like that animal. What is that Dr. Dolittle animal? The push me, pull you. You've got these different motivations, really shy and not confident, and then using this fuel to prove to your dad that you're worthy, so trying to be the best at everything. It's fucking weird.
It is weird. Yeah. And I suppose what you've been through, it's going to ultimately make you a better father. Yeah,
I think it will.
Yeah, because you understand
early days
the importance.
Early days yet, but I'm ready. I'm ready for it, and I'm excited to be a good dad. And I'm so lucky because me and my wife Lou, we just have the most incredible relationship. I actually never believed that I would end up with such an amazing woman when I was young, and she is just it. She is like so hot as fuck. She's the most sexiest girl in the world, but she is so beautiful inside, and she puts others first all the time, and she just melts my heart.
Why did you not think you'd end up with someone so amazing?
It's that lack of confidence and just thinking you're not worthy. You know, I heard this podcast a while ago, and they were talking about how everyone subconsciously has a question that they ask in their head, and that that forms their path in life. And I realized that my question in my head was like, how can I prove that I'm enough? You know, how can I show the world that I'm worthy? And that's been my fucking subconscious question I've always had in my head, and that's led me to sort of where I am and how I've got here. Whereas, you know, your question should be, how can I reach my true potential as a human being? You know, that's a more positive subconscious question to have in your head.
It seems like your internal voice and mine are probably quite similar. Yeah, are you quite a bully to yourself at times?
Fuck, I'm the harshest critic, Dom. Like,
it's not fair, eh? It's not healthy.
I'm so tough on myself, man. Even if I do something kind of good, I'm again just, I could have done this better, and that could have been done a little bit slicker. And it's fucking weird.
It is. It's not healthy. It's not helpful. And every time I hear myself doing it to myself, I try and pull myself in, but it still remains there.
Luckily, we've got wisdom on our side, so you can, you know, we're able to identify it a bit more now. And you're like, because I think that there's two things, and I want to teach this to my daughter eventually when she's old enough. But I'm like, just don't be so hard on yourself. Like, this is one thing that's really important to remember. Don't be hard on yourself, but be honest with yourself. And they almost contradict as well. But they're two very important things, you know? Like, don't fool yourself. Like, be honest with yourself, but also don't be fucking hard on yourself. Because if she's going to be like half like me and half like Lou, she's probably going to be a little tough on herself sometimes. So I hope that I can help with that.
I think that's cool. That's a cool lesson. So, April Sun in Cuba, one of the biggest New Zealand songs ever, comes out in 1977. So you're 4, 3?
2.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you,
So I don't remember
you don't
it
remember
at the time.
that coming on the radio or anything.
But I have heard it, and I've heard it at rugby games, All Blacks games. I've heard it on the radio when I've jumped into a cab just straight off the plane in Sydney. I've heard it at nightclubs. I used to DJ it a lot when I was playing under the thing People of Paris. We used to play that, and that would sort of get everyone going pretty good. Yeah,
well, it's one of the biggest New Zealand songs ever, and your dad wrote it and performed it. There are other big songs, Are You Old Enough and Rain, which came out, I guess, when you were like sort of.
That was an older one.
Yeah,
a newer one, and then there was Still in Love with You. Was a really great one.
Oh, did your dad write that?
I don't know if he wrote it.
Yeah, it's a
obviously
beautiful
he sung
song.
it, yeah.
But when you hear those songs, like what do you feel? Is it sort of indifference? Is it anger? Is it a bit of pride? What is it?
It's both. But not anger. Nah, I'm not angry that he didn't choose me. I'm sad. So I get sad, but I also get really proud when I hear it. So it's quite a weird conflicting emotion to have all in one. But every time I hear his music, yeah, no matter where I am, there's been a few times where I've been kind of drunk and it's come on at the halftime at the All Blacks game, and then all my friends that I'm with, they know the story, so they're all high-fiving me and stuff, and then there I am, like, kind of reminiscing, getting a little bit teary and shit.
Fuck, it breaks my heart when you say he didn't choose me.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of an honest way to put it, I guess. And again, I'm not here to, like, knock him, because he was 22 at the time. He was young, and men are immature. You know, Mum was 20, and my dad was 22. But in maturity levels, he's probably like 15.
Yeah. Kids on the big scheme of things.
Fuck that. I'm freaking out about having a baby, and I'm like 49. You know?
Yeah, right.
Wow, it's a scary thing, and I don't blame him. You know, like.
Yeah, and you and I, we've had a conversation before, like talking about, I think we were talking about Kanye at the time, and how, if you have like a genius like that, you have to accept the crazy as well.
Yeah, you have to take the good with the bad.
And I suppose it was the same thing with your old man. It's like, this creative genius, but also like an incredibly flawed human being on the other side.
Yeah, very human, and very broken in a way, you know? So different to his brother, it's crazy. His brother Todd, who was also in the band, just always seemed to me like he was very pragmatic and kind of almost held the band together, while his bloody younger brother was just out there tearing up hell and trying to break everything apart. That was almost the way I look at it.
He was a hellraiser, right? Like he ended up doing some time in Mount Eden jail in '78 for, I think, heroin possession or heroin use or something.
Yeah, so he was tied up with allegedly, I think it was Mr. Asia and stuff like that. Right. So there is a character like based on him, I think, in that Mr. Asia series that was on a while ago.
Oh right, yeah. The
it's
underbelly
one,
like
a true crime kind of underbelly. Yeah.
So do you have a relationship with Todd, Uncle Todd? Or?
Not so much. I mean, he's sort of tried to include me over the years, and I think I've kept my distance a bit. There's a bit of pain there and stuff, and my grandmother sort of welcomed me in a little bit over the years, and she just passed away a couple of weeks ago, which is sad. But I think she's like 95, which is pretty good innings. But I'm in regular contact with my cousin, so Todd's son James Hunter, who actually played for I think he played for the Breakers briefly, which is really cool. And so he's from Sydney, but while he was stationed here in Auckland, he just reached out, and then we just sort of broed down, and now we've got this kind of cool relationship. He's back in Sydney now, and he's got his first child, and we just always keep in contact over Instagram messaging and stuff like that.
That's cool.
It's really cool. He's a great dude.
And what about the your half siblings?
No contact ever.
No.
Nah.
Does it feel like there's a part of you that's missing, or not really? Are you sort of over that now?
No, I feel okay.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. And when did you get the tattoo?
It was 1998, I think. That's the year he passed away.
Right.
1998. It was 26 years this week, actually. So I was just looking at my iCal for this week, and it was last Wednesday was 26 years since he passed away, which was quite crazy in this podcast, and I'm about to have a child, and I was like, fuck, it's quite weird, all the weird circle. Synergies, or, you know?
Yeah. So I watched some clips online. So he died of throat cancer, which by all accounts was sort of self-inflicted in a way through lifestyle choices. But his last performance on stage of April Sun and Cupid was with John Farnham. And there was Colin Hay there from Men at Work, and Kate Sobrano, and a whole lot of people. So, must be. That was
a crazy
weird
journey.
Feeling for you.
Yeah, it was quite. That was a tough time for me when he got the cancer, because I think, how old was I? Fuck, I can't remember. It was 18, 20, something like that. I get home from work, haven't heard from the guy for years and years and years, and there's a message on my answer machine. That sounds old school. On my landline answer machine. And there's this kind of deep voice, and it's like, "Hey Mark, it's your father." And I was like, holy fuck, just like crazy moment. Didn't know how to deal with it, kind of upset me a lot. Basically, give me a call back. I wasn't really ready to talk, but we just started writing letters to and fro. And it was quite cool because it was sort of on my terms and my time that I was able to sort of communicate with him, and we took it very slowly. And we were just starting to get to know each other, which was quite cool for me. And then I remember I was shopping in Pack and Save at the time, pushing the trolley and on the radio. It was like, rock and roll singer Marc Hunter is diagnosed with advanced throat cancer. And fuck, I was, he didn't even tell me through the letters. I have to hear it through the radio, which was kind of a bit bullshit. So I was just starting to get to know him, and then it was like this throat cancer had come in and was kind of taking him away. So that was another thing that just kind of crushed me a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah. I can tell it's not easy to talk about even now.
Nah, but it is therapeutic in a way, and it's good to get it out.
Yeah. What's nice to hear about that letter writing and that, attempts were to, I suppose, make amends or make up for time, before it was too late.
Yeah. It was a nice thing at the end. It was nice to get some contact. My last letter that I sent him, it actually didn't reach him, which was heartbreaking. So I sent a letter off, and then I remember I was surfing one day, and this is the only time in my life that I've never been physically able to stand up on a surfboard. So I was surfing out at Manu Bay at Raglan, beautiful evening, sunset, and then my flatmate paddled out and was like, "Mark, your father's just passed away." And so I was just like, fuck. I just had to get in, and it was the first time I've paddled it. Fuck. It's quite upsetting, sorry. It's the first time I've paddled into a wave and not being able to stand up physically because I was so upset. And just felt like my world had just just blowing up. And so my last letter had never reached him, and then his wife, Wendy, replied to me eventually and was like, your father, or she referred to him as your friend. Don't know if she wanted to admit that it was my father, but your friend unfortunately passed away and never got to read your last letter, but I just wanted to respond to you. And yeah, it was fucking quite sad.
Fuck yeah, that's touching. I've got a box of tissues under there. Do you want some?
I'm okay.
No,
it's just the lump in the throat.
It's good to talk about this stuff. It's cathartic, and I have heard you in a couple of interviews. Call him your dad, and as someone that hasn't been unable to have my own kids, but has raised someone else's. I feel like it's very generous that you bestow the title of dad on him, because he is your biological father, but I feel like dad is another.
Yeah. And I reckon that's only because I never had a sort of a father figure, true father figure. There was one guy in my upbringing that was probably the most like a father figure to me, but I never really had someone to sort of step in and sort of take that role, because I think if there had been, I probably would have never referred to Mark as dad. Yeah.
Yeah. And your mum, Victoria Moore, let's shine the light on her for a bit. Another thing I was thinking about, you and I are similar ages, and throughout my classes in primary school, there was only one kid that was living with his mum as a solo mum. It was my mate Craig. Like, that's how uncommon it was. Now you go into any classroom, it's probably 50-50. I don't know, it's no big deal. But back then, it must have felt incredibly isolating, like growing up, like just being raised by a mum.
It was super rare back then. You're so right, actually. I'd never really thought about that. But, everyone had a mum and a dad. And I remember we used to cop a little bit of flack, like, your mum's on the, the benefit or the welfare. Kids are harsh, man. And, you guys have got no money, because we were fucking poor. But mum, she always gave me a pretty good upbringing with what little she had, We might, like, move into a house and it was a shitbox, but she'd get, go buy paint. And, she'd paint the kitchen and make it look nice, and she'd make it look as nice as possible. Because she wasn't down the pub, like, getting drunk every Friday night and Saturday night like most of the other parents were doing. So I was pretty lucky that I actually had a good childhood, and she sacrificed a lot for me. But, yeah, it was hard in school, because I was definitely... And I always gravitated towards the naughty kids in school, and... there was a lot of kids that were just from the wrong side of the tracks in Raglan that just ended up there, and I just gravitated towards them, and maybe that was because they weren't judging me so much for not having a mum and a dad, or being the only child and
your people,
single mum.
Your tribe,
my people, yeah. So I always gravitated towards that, and then that in turn also made me a bloody nightmare at school.
But part of that is probably, maybe you were acting out because there was this missing piece, but then maybe it's, you look at your gene pool that you come from. Like, your mum was a badass as well. I heard a story about her, didn't she? So she's from Hamilton. Didn't she? She hitchhiked up to Auckland to see Led Zeppelin.
So she's originally born in England, and then they migrated to the South Island initially when she was very young, and then they moved to Hamilton and stuff. But she was always a rebel. She was so rebellious. So they were living in Hamilton. This is the story. And then she went to bed. Her parents are quite strict, very very conservative English folks. And so she sneaks out of her bedroom window at night while they're sleeping, hitchhikes to Auckland, to Western Springs, I believe it is. I don't know what year it was. And to see Led Zeppelin. She smuggles away over the fence all the way to the front, and then she's there just watching Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, and she's like, she notices like Robert Plant's massive fucking weapon in his tight like leather pants. That's one of her memories. I'm like, oh my god, like that is so crazy. I think she might have been 16, so like that says a lot about her when she was young, and maybe a little bit of a hellraiser as well, you know.
You never had a chance.
No.
Half your mum, half your dad.
No.
You were doomed from the beginning.
Yeah, I feel like that rock and roll stuff has just flown through my veins.
That's such a cool story. Was she quite strict growing up, or?
No, so she was very bohemian with me, and she has this philosophy where each generation brings their kids up opposite to the other. So she's like, I was very bohemian, very boho with you. That means that you're going to be very Victorian with your daughter when you bring her up. I'm like, oh, don't say that. But I see it in the way that I am almost with our dog, Edie. I'm like quite strict on her, even though I love her. I can be quite strict. And so I don't want to be a Victorian dad. Fuck, it sounds terrible.
I don't think you will be, will you?
I hope I can just be a little bit of both. Victorian when I need to be. And boho most of the time.
Yeah. I feel like you'll be an incredibly kind dad.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Luckily, we've got Lucinda, who's just this gorgeous, soft, beautiful woman who will soften everything out.
Yeah, and I found another photo of you. This is you. Maybe you were like 10 here. But yeah, double denim. And what are the shoes? Like red loafers? Orange loafers?
Those would still be cool now, Dom. Those are those are so sick.
Was your mum dressing you, or did you have your own sort of...
No, I had my own flair, I used to borrow mum's clothes a lot. I used to get flack from this when I was young at school too. I used to wear, not dresses and shit, but, I would push it. And I always had a bit of flair about what I wore. And I understood from an early age that if you were looking good, you would feel good. So I understood that transformative power that fashion can have on you from an early age.
Not dresses, but were you dressing sort of quite femininely as a...
Oh, I remember she always had this this vest that was, it was by this old New Zealand brand called Jag, and I would always steal.
Oh, I remember Jag, and then Jag Men came along, and it was like, it's the men's version of Jag.
This was before Jag Men's.
It was an Australian thing, I think.
Yeah, I thought it was a New Zealand thing. I could be wrong, but I used to wear that over my t-shirts, and so I wasn't wearing dresses or anything, but. Some of my teachers way back used to think that I wanted to be a girl, and that's probably just because mum was my role model, and that's all I sort of knew. And I was surrounded by a lot of girls growing up.
So how old's your mum now?
God, she must be 69.
Right.
69? Yeah. 70 next year.
Is she in good shape?
Yeah, she's so youthful.
Yeah.
My God, when sometimes so... My mum lives next door to us. This is crazy. Most people don't know this. She lives literally next door to us. And
now?
Yeah. And so we bump into each other a lot, right?
Right.
We do our morning walks in similar circuits. So most mornings we'll be walking along, and then we'll see, mum walking sort of towards us from a distance, but we don't know it's mum. And I always think it's this young sort of 30-year-old or whatever. She's got so much energy, and just the way she dresses, and very youthful spirit, youthful nature. Looks really young for her age.
Yeah. And are you good at telling her? I've seen some Instagram posts that you've done where you've said nice things about her, but are you good at telling her? Like,
not so good.
No.
Sometimes on a sort of like on Instagram and stuff. Obviously, special moments like our wedding, 2022 when Lou and I got married up in Bali. I sort of gave this amazing speech, but I get that a lot from mum, sort of almost being quite inward and not really communicating our feelings that much. And mum's exactly like this. So when I did the speech at the wedding, she was just crying. I was crying. Everyone else was crying. It was quite beautiful. And actually, I caught up with mum yesterday, and we went on a walk, and we had a really great chat just about childhood and stuff, because I was like, I'm going on this podcast. I am a bit fuzzy about some of my childhood memories and stuff, and just wanted her to confirm a few things, and then we just had this beautiful chat. It was really cool. And she was like, I feel so much responsibility for not being a great mum and stuff, and you know, in my 20s I was still working it out, and I was just like, fuck mum, you have nothing to be ashamed of or feel guilty for. I don't blame you for anything. As far as I'm concerned, you gave me the best upbringing you could ever give with what you had, and I'm fucking lucky. And I'm lucky that you chose me when everyone else and everything else was telling you not to choose me. For some reason you did, and here I am today, and I've had this great life. And so please don't blame yourself. Like,
what do you mean she chose you?
Well, she could have chose to not have me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I always think, you know, when you're pregnant, you can make a choice to have the child or not. And I think with all the adversity that she was facing back then, you know, a lot of people would have chosen not, I think. I could be wrong.
Yeah, shit. I think back then you had to go to Australia to get to terminate a pregnancy. So
oh, really? Oh, okay.
Maybe she's like, well, I wanted to get.
Yeah. Yeah, she was saying yesterday. She was like, I don't know what it was, but every fiber in my body was just saying, have this child. And she, even though she was like, felt wrong because all my friends were saying it's not going to work, it's going to be terrible, it's going to ruin your life. And she was like, I don't know why, but I just felt like that.
Just a maternal instinct, eh?
Yeah.
Is there anything that came up on that walk that we haven't talked about that you wanted to bring up or get out there?
No, I asked a lot about my dad, and I asked her about, well, first I asked her, what do you think, like, in terms of characteristics or traits, what do you think I've inherited from you? And sort of we talked, and it was like spirituality, creativity, you know, the youthful kind of young at heart kind of vibe. And then I was like, what did I inherit from my dad, you know? And we got talking, and she was like, your charisma, you know, he had this charisma, I can't explain it. And then this musical ear that I've always had, I've been great with music. And then also a very opportunistic nature. She was like, you inherited that from your dad. You didn't get it from me.
What does that mean?
And I was like, what does this mean? She was like, you wouldn't wait for opportunities. You'd go out and create them. You'd make them. You'd almost just force them. Like, she was like, I remember you were this young surfer and you're hanging around Raglan, then like all of a sudden you come back and you're like with this world title surfer that you've just bumped into and this amazing videographer that's making the best surf films in the world at the time, and you just bump into him and then you end up spending like this week with them and like being in the film and stuff and getting a mention, and she's like, that shit doesn't happen to normal people.
Yeah, because if you have that sort of like that charm or charisma or that force of nature, then it does open doors for you. But it's quite funny because that sort of is complete opposites to, you know, being sort of introverted and lacking confidence.
Yeah, really, it contradicts in a way, doesn't it?
It does. But I can see how the two merge together.
It kind of
maybe
weirdly
it's a
works.
Survival instinct where
potentially
you just need to
that's
put
part
yourself
of
out there.
It might be also part of me just always thinking that there's something better out there too, which is a blessing and a curse. But I've always thought, you know, it's like that Oscar Wilde saying, what is it? We're all in the gutter, but some of us are staring up at the stars. And that's me to a T. You know, even if I'm growing up with nothing and no money, I'm still dreaming of this world where I'm going to be, you know, doing great things and probably finding some success. And yeah.
Yeah, another thing that had never really occurred to me about being like a solo mum in the 70s or 80s. I had a guy on the podcast last week, Sean Plunkett, the controversial broadcaster.
Okay.
And his mum was a solo mum. And he was tearing up, like, talking about the job she did. And he said she was sort of an outcast, like friends that she had, the wives were wary of her because they thought she was going to steal their husbands. And
that happens. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, it's just another layer of shit or difficulty that, like, your mum probably had to deal with, like, in the 70s or 80s.
And as a kid, you don't actually understand that, which is so sad. I do now when I look back, but at the time, I didn't truly understand it, you know.
Well,
I was too worried about getting teased by the other kids, you know.
Well, yeah, everyone's so self-conscious, but also your mum probably shielded you from all that stuff as well. And,
yeah.
Which makes it more remarkable, the job she did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about Lou.
Yeah.
So how did you go? What's the age gap there? She's still able to have kids, so she's obviously younger than you.
She's a lot younger than me, Dom. So
What are you, 49?
yeah, age is just a number. So she's 37 soon.
37.
So there's a few years between us.
Yeah.
Yeah. She just keeps me on the straight and narrow. She's a wonderful human being. She used to be my sales manager, actually. That's how we first met. So we were looking for a salesperson, and we were like, fuck, who's doing a really great job out there? It's better just to go poach someone really than to find someone and train someone up. And then we'd heard that she was an incredible rep for a brand called Roxy, a surf brand.
Oh yeah, Roxy were huge for a while with the slogan over the bum.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe
yeah.
2005.
Yeah.
Everyone had a pair of those Roxy jeans.
Yeah, they were massive. So we basically just put an offer out to her, and she was pretty excited to come and work for more of a fashion brand and get out of that sort of mainstream surf industry. So we gave her a job, and then she jumped on board, and then she was just amazing. Overnight, just all our stores, all our stockists around the country just fell in love with her, and she was able just to sell so much product, but she had so much integrity, and yeah, people just loved her and they trusted her, and yeah, so we became good friends through that. We were never attracted to each other, which is weird, and a lot of people don't believe this, but we actually weren't attracted to each other while we were working together. And then she resigned after about 3 years, and then that's sort of when the attraction sort of happened, and it happened literally like that. It was fucked up. I think we'd had a night, and it was the last sales trip basically to say goodbye to all the stores, and I was freaking out because I was like, fuck, this girl's leaving. What are we going to do? So I wanted to go on this trip with her and make sure that all the retailers were happy and they weren't going to drop us.
Oh my God.
So I went on this trip with her, and then it was basically a 2-week trip. So we'd do, North Island and the South Island. I think it was the end of the trip, South Island, something. We'd just celebrated the end of the trip and had a couple of bottles of red wine and stuff, and then and nothing happened. Like there was no nothing physical, but there was just something in my brain or my heart changed, and I don't know if she felt like that, but I remember the next morning I had to drive off early and go to a surfing competition, and there was just something weird that had changed, and I just looked at her differently from that moment on. Fucking hard to explain.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah,
it's amazing how that can happen. Have you compared notes with her?
No, not really. I don't. No, I haven't really spoken to her about that actual moment. It was a weird moment. It was weird. It was when when Kanye had dropped that album. Fuck, what was the one with the Life of Pablo? Was it that album?
Oh yeah, Life of Pablo. Yeah.
Yeah. It was when that album had just came out, and so there's a song on it called Ultralight Beam that I was just playing over and over, and that just reminded me of her in that moment. So an incredible album, incredible song that always to this day reminds me of that sort of, that moment when my heart changed. Yeah.
It is a great album. Are you a Kanye guy as well?
Yeah, I am. I'm not so much about Kanye the guy, but his art, I fucking love his art. You know, to me, he's a modern day David Bowie to me. That's how I compare him.
I was listening to someone on a Joe Rogan podcast, and they've got a theory about Kanye that he always tries to pick the most out there an unpopular thing to make it popular. So when he first came out, he was wearing like pink polo shirts. Then there's the MAGA hat. It's almost like he's like, what's the most uncool thing that I can try and make popular?
It's almost like counterculture, right? So he's taking counter moves against like what popular culture maybe or popular opinion is, and it's almost that thing when others zig, he zags almost, and that keeps him sort of ahead of the pack. Yeah, it's quite cool.
The music's bloody great. I'm obsessed with this music. Even the latest stuff he's done, it's incredible.
It's so cool, and every album's kind of different in a way, and that just. Some people get over it because they want the old Kanye, but David Bowie was like that too. He would get into this character like method acting every album. He'd get into this new character, become Ziggy Stardust, and even his friends were like, "Fuck, this guy's weird. What the hell is he doing?" But he was in this character, living and breathing it for this album that he's creating, and I think Kanye's a lot like David Bowie.
Yeah, I agree. His Yeezus album, the first time I heard that, I was like, what the fuck is this pile of shit? Like, it just sounded like industrial noise. Yeah. Then you give it a few listens and it's like, oh, this is brilliant.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah, very industrial, that album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what's the special connection with Bali? So you and Lou, you got engaged in Bali, and then you went back there and got married. By the way, what sort of thought went into the engagement? Like, how long were you sitting on that? Did she know it was coming? Had you discussed it?
No, she had no idea. So Bali's always had a special place for us because she had never been to Bali before. I'd been there so many times in the 90s when I was trying to be like a pro surfer for years, and so we'd go do magazine trips over there. And I always loved it. It was the first overseas place that I ever went to outside of Raglan. So I've always loved Bali. And then about a year after Lou and I started going out together, I was like, I want to take you to Bali because I want you to experience this place that I love. And fuck, man, seeing her relive Bali for her first time and reliving that through her eyes just made me fall in love with it, and she just fell in love with it. And I'd never really had that with a girlfriend, like had a place that was ours. And so, yeah, Bali became our place together, our special place. And so I think we went there 2 years in a row, and then the third year, I believe, was when I decided I was going to like get on one knee and pop the question. So all my friends, there was a bunch of us, about 10 of us traveling together. They had no idea. I was basically hiding this ring sort of in my pocket, and we were just on the cliffs at Uluwatu, and the sun was going down, and I just pulled out the ring and just asked her if she wanted to be my forever girl. And she just broke down crying, and then all our friends started crying, and there was people all around us that were cheering and shit, and it was cool. It was beautiful, and I'm obsessed with sunset, so it had to be at sunset. I love a good sunset. And so a couple of years later, we got married in Bali, and again on Uluwatu cliff tops at sunset.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was incredible. It was one of the best days of my life. We had 80 people there, I think. We had friends that came from all around the world. This was just after COVID, after the lockdown year, I believe, after 2021 and 2020. So no one had really been travelling. It was the first time we'd all travelled, and it was this huge reunion. And yeah, I'll never forget that moment. I actually think about it a lot. Every morning in my routine when I'm practicing gratitude before I start my day, the wedding is actually one vivid memory that I bring into my gratitude.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that then. What is your morning routine?
It's pretty... Yeah, it's quite different to what I used to be. I used to be a bit slack.
Well, I saw a YouTube interview of you maybe like 10 or 15 years ago, and I suppose that's the good thing about these. It sort of timestamps a person's life. So back then you were living on like coffee in the morning and Red Bull in the afternoon. And I laughed when I saw it because, you're on a sober kick at the moment.
I've been a little sober. I've been not sober.
Was it sort of like pregnancy solidarity sober?
Yeah, I was... there was a time there where I was going out every Friday night, and I was getting, pretty lit and sort of, a bit of escapism. And having fun. I love having fun. I love a good party. But after a while, I was like, fuck, am I actually on track to reach my potential as a human being? Like, what could I be doing differently that could, allow me to be better at work, to be a better partner, to be a great father? And so I thought, let's just cut out the alcohol and see how I go. And I wanted to do a month. I don't want to put a time sort of thing on it. I ended up going for like quite a while. I think I went for like 3 months, and it felt great. I had ultimate clarity. I was waking up in the morning feeling good. I was getting to work on a Monday and solving all the world's problems. And then I had quite an unhealthy relationship with alcohol. For me, it was a coping mechanism. So I would get lit to be able to walk into a crowded room and feel confident. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
a lot of people
like a crutch.
Yeah, a lot of people relate to this.
100%.
And I didn't believe that was a good use of alcohol. And I want alcohol to be more like special occasions for me, not just Happy Friday. So just, like I had a friend's birthday a while ago, and we got lit up for that, and that was cool because that's a special moment, and you should celebrate that together. But there's heaps of Fridays and Saturdays that I don't need to drink, and I can go out and socialise with friends, and I can just drink water, or I can drink a zero alc beer. So that's been sort of my new relationship with alcohol, and I feel like I'm in control of it, which is way better. And then to sort of top that off, I've kind of changed my lifestyle with how I start my mornings and stuff. So religiously, I've had a lot of back trouble in my life, so I have to work a lot harder than most to sort of ward off the back pain. So part of that process is always going for a walk in the morning, walking the dog. We have a dog, so it's a great excuse to go for a walk.
What time is it? An early morning start or?
So yeah, pretty early. I mean, depending on, sometimes I'll go walking first or I'll go to the gym first. So whatever I do, I'll get up around 6 or 6:30. And if I want to go to the gym, I'll go to the gym first and do a workout, or I'll do a kilometre swim, and then I'll do a sauna, and then I'll do 20 minutes in the sauna practicing gratitude. So being grateful for everything that I have in my life, instead of fucking worrying about all the shit that I don't have in my life, or being envious of others that seem like they have more than me, because that's a big thing, because then that steals your happiness, right? So I have to practice this gratitude in the sauna every day, and that's after a workout. I feel like I deserve it, I feel like I've earned it. And then if I haven't had the walk, then I'll have the walk straight after with my wife, and that's a really special time for us too, where we have a great chat and stuff, and we get some fresh air and get some oxytocin, some nature in us, which helps.
Yeah.
And then we start our day and we're more equipped to deal with, problems and stuff like that.
How good are saunas? I've only been on the sauna buzz for like the past year, but it's a game changer.
I'm with you, bro. Like I've only been on it for about a year as well. And I'm addicted, and the statistics and the data on it are through the roof. There's a guy that I go to the gym with, and he works for one of the health medical insurance companies. And I bumped into him when I first joined the gym, and he was like, "Can you have a sauna, bro?" And I was like, "Oh, I'll come and have sauna, why not?" Hadn't really thought about it. And he was like, the data on the research on saunas, it lowers your all-cause mortality rate by like 30%, so it's going to lower like the risk of maybe getting heart disease or something like that. And he was like, "You got to get into it, bro, every day, or at least 5 days a week, do 20 minutes minimum." And so I'm just addicted to it.
Yeah.
I love the feeling of getting into that sauna and sweating everything out.
Yeah, in terms of the benefits for heart health in particular, it's just through the roof. What about cold plunge? You got into cold showers?
I do the cold shower,
Yeah.
but only because we don't have we have a cold plunge at our gym, and it's fucking so shitty. It's not even cold. You got to chuck ice cubes in it, and it's warmer than the shower. So after the sauna, I go and just have a cold shower. It's way more effective.
Yeah. There's Wim Hof and all this scientific sort of evidence, but I don't know. I can't help but think part of it's placebo. But fuck, you feel good after a 1 to 2 minute cold shower.
Oh, it just wakes you up.
Yeah.
And it's the first 10 seconds is always kind of hard, and you're doing this
hyperventilating,
deep breathing, and then you're like, "Whoa, it's just actually on my skin. It's only just hitting the surface of my skin. It's not in my body." And then you start to zen out, and then afterwards you can just have a full shower and it's ice cold. Yeah, it's incredible.
And it's discomfort, but it's not actually going to hurt you. It's just discomfort.
Yeah.
And the gratitude thing you're talking about. I've started doing that probably about the same time as what I've been doing sauna, like a year, and it's been an absolute game changer. I always thought it was, I don't know, like gratitude has sort of like woo-woo connotations, but it's fucking great. And whatever position you are in life, you don't actually have to look that hard to find things to be grateful about, eh?
Yeah.
Like even if you go real basic level, like having a roof over your head, or people that love you, or fresh water out of the tap to drink, like you can take it down to a real low level of things to be grateful about. But you're surrounded by stuff. But if you're constantly chasing stuff, you're always looking forward, and you're never sort of stopping to smell the roses of things you've got to be happy for here and now.
You miss the magic, right? I mean,
yeah, 100%.
And if you're not happy with what you have and what you have around you and stuff, I feel like you're not being open to new opportunities and having new things and having more love and having more things. You can be gratitude. You can have gratitude for material things too. Don't get me wrong. You practice your gratitude. You start with your family and your health and wealth and freedom, and then you make your way to your friends and your business and all that, and your experiences in life. But then you can chuck a few nice material things. But the key with gratitude is your brain doesn't know the difference between, what has happened and what hasn't happened. So you can trick your brain if you're on this gratitude thing. So I'll do half gratitude for all the things I have, and then the next half is gratitude for the things that haven't happened yet, but I'm visualizing that they have happened, And
like manifesting.
Yes. And so I mix the two together. And it's an amazing spiral that you get into, And I'll chuck a really nice car in there, and there'll be a few things. There might even be a beach house in there. Some mornings I'll chuck a little beach house in there at the end, and I'll visualize being on the beach and being with my family and teaching my daughter how to surf. Like, I go that deep.
Right. I got to try doing that.
It's fucking cool.
Forward thinking.
It's powerful, man. Do half and half.
And what about, have you had any therapy or anything over the years?
I had a little bit. I think I had about 4 sessions. It was really good. It was about my father.
When was that? What sort of age?
That was about I reckon it was about 2021. Yeah.
Oh, so recently.
Quite recent. It was this amazing guy, Tony. He was recommended by a friend, and they were just like, fuck, it's really good to go talk to someone, especially someone you don't know, someone unbiased who's not going to weigh in with judgment or anything. And fuck, I reckon it took about 20 seconds and I was bawling my eyes out. I walked out of that place going, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, how did that happen? Yeah, exactly. I've had some sessions. I put it off for years and years because I was like, I don't know where to start. I don't know if it's for me. And then you get in the room and you realise they're a trained professional, so this is what they do for a job. So they get you talking. Fuck, it's amazing. Something like that, like the situation with your dad. It's amazing how something like that fucks you up, eh?
Yeah,
life.
totally.
Like,
I'm lucky it didn't fuck me up more. I'm
Yeah.
lucky that I was able to use that as some fuel to get where I am now. I kind of put a lot of that on that sort of pain and that fuel that I use. That's kind of how I've got to where I am in business, and that's how I got to where I was in surfing. Not the most talented surfer, but here I am in the top 10 every year, and I've won national titles now, and yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. How's your surfing now? You won an age group title a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
You had back surgery recently. Was that to rectify the snowboarding thing from like 20 years ago?
Same fucking injury. So
damn.
Had the snowboarding thing, had a lot of trouble with my back, L5S1, so disc bulge. 2004, got that operated on. They just cut the bulge out because it was hitting on the sciatic nerve, basically. 20 years later, to the month, they were like, let's just clear this disc out. It's completely collapsed. It's just mush. Got in, cleared it out, and then put a synthetic disc, like a spacer, in the bottom of my spine, like a 12mm spacer. So just opened me up, went through the front. It's amazing how modern science and medicine has advanced in 20 years. So they no longer go through the back because there's too much risk with hitting nerves. So they go through the front, and then they put this disc spacer in, sew you up. I've got the cesarean sort of scar. It looks like I've had a C-section through my tummy. And it'll be 3 months in a couple weeks. It'll be 3 months since the operation, and I'm going to knock on wood, but so far so good. Yeah, feeling great. The back pain that I was experiencing has gone. I've had to be extremely diligent with the rehab, so I followed the physio's instructions to the letter. Doing an hour and a half of walking a day, and then getting into the pool, doing half an hour in the pool, and doing all these shitty exercises that don't feel like they're even doing anything, but under the
physio exercises, they're the worst.
Oh, they're so mundane. I'm like, is this doing anything? But honestly, I followed it to the letter, and I'm stoked I did, because I'm feeling pretty great, and we're almost 3 months in. So.
Oh, how good! About time. 20 years. So how bad was the pain over those years?
Fuck, it was terrible. I've been taken to hospital one time. Oh, fuck, this is actually funny. I couldn't move one night, and I got stuck in bed, and the next morning I was just in pain all night. The meds weren't doing anything, and then Lou got freaked out, and then she just called the ambulance, called 111. Next morning they came and got me in the ambulance, and these two small girls walk in, paramedics, and Lou was like, fuck, they're real little, they're gonna have to lift him out of here. And then they just pull out this green whistle, and they're like, just suck on this. I'd never seen a green whistle before. Have you seen a green whistle?
No.
It's this thing that the paramedics use. It's like this green whistle, and you just huff on it, and I don't know what the fuck's in there, but I got up out of my bed and walked to the ambulance 2-3 minutes later and had no pain, and I was high on life. It was the most powerful thing ever, and I couldn't move. Could not move. It would hurt so much. Would send needles down my legs, and then here I am just standing up and walking my ass to the ambulance, and then I go to hospital. They do all these X-rays and shit. And, yeah.
What was it, like morphine?
I don't know. I should Google it actually. I should just Google
What's in the green whistle? Where can you buy it from?
But they didn't ask for it back, and so I was in the hospital room waiting for my X-rays, and I was just huffing it, and then the doctor came in and caught me huffing and was like, where did you get that? And I was like, fuck, what's wrong? The paramedics gave this to me. I haven't broken any laws. And she was like, they needed to take that back. That is so dangerous. And I gave it back because it made me feel amazing. My back pain went. Never experienced anything like that. But yeah, my back pain used to get so bad, it used to just incapacitate me, and I couldn't work. And I remember people would call me Creepy Jesus because I had the long hair and I was hobbling around, bent over. It was quite a good nickname, actually.
Creepy Jesus.
Creepy Jesus.
Yeah. How are you with vulnerability? Are you good at having like real open discussions? Like with
I'm getting better. Yeah, totally. I'm getting the last like 5 years. I'm getting a lot better. I'm honest with my emotions, and I can be honest with my friends. I'm lucky. I've got such great friends around me. So many different friends from all walks of life. But I'm able to have really deep chats, and you get a lot out of a deep chat, right? Than being surface level all the time.
Oh, yeah, 1,000%. When you start having those deep chats, suddenly your tolerance for just small talk or shit chat becomes less and less. You're like, what are we fucking doing?
I bet that's a massive case for you too, because this is what you do for a living.
Yeah.
You have deep chats, and that's pretty much all you're doing every day. And so that'd be the worst nightmare for you, to go to a pub and just have shitty small talk.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the power of these conversations, I've just got it's been such a good sort of learning journey for me, and you get so much from them, and it's so fucking powerful. But it's, it's funny, like you and I are similar ages, similar demographic, and I feel like we're on the same sort of path.
Yeah.
And it often takes a while to get to where you need to be, but you get there eventually.
Yeah, and it's not a race, and yeah, you're right. Everyone gets there in their own time,
Yeah.
And that's an important thing to know when you're growing up and stuff, and you're competitive, or you get there in your own time, and
yeah,
it's not 100%.
A race. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you want to bring up, or?
No, I think we're pretty good. I can't remember all the questions about the business stuff. I'm hoping that we covered that off. I'm just wondering what people out there would want to hear. That's on the way here. I was just like, fuck. I hope that our chat can help some people that are struggling with confidence in a way. Like that's kind of what I wanted out of this podcast. But then I was like, what do people want to listen? Are they going to want to hear about the business? Because a lot of people know Stolen Girlfriends Club. It's well known, certainly in New Zealand. And then not a lot of people know about me sort of personally.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from my perspective, it's been a bloody great chat. And I think for these things, it's just showing that regardless of, where someone is in life, everyone deals with the same shit.
Yeah.
Like I've had Dame Lisa Carrington on, the most successful New Zealand Olympian ever, 5 gold medals, and she deals with insecurity, or
you never guess it, right?
Moments where she's like, am I good enough? Am I doing enough? And it's like, you realize if she's feeling that, then it's perfectly okay for the rest of us.
Yeah.
We'll end with this one. Say it's your funeral and people are standing around and there's
this is heavy.
This is bleak. No. I had a guy on the podcast called Dougal Allen, who's like a multi-sport guy, and he's in Team New Zealand, and he did some adventure races with Richie McCaw. And he said in the middle of the night, Richie asked all the teammates, what 3 words would you like people to use to sum up you at your funeral? And for Richie, one of the words was integrity. And this guy Dougal said, it's funny because that would have been the word that I thought of. So what would it be for you? 3 words that you'd like people to throw around when they discuss Marc Moore.
Passionate would be one. Mm-hmm. Creative would have to be a big one. And I think integrity would be another major one as well. I'd like to think that, my friends might have another opinion. But yeah, I think those 3 things: passionate, creative,
That's
integrity.
Cool. I reckon kind would be high on the list as well.
Yeah.
You're a kind person.
Yeah, I am very kind. A bit mushy sometimes. I thought you were going to ask me what song I was going to have at my funeral. I was like, this is going to be interesting.
Oh no, what song would it be?
Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here, because I'd want everyone fucking crying their fucking asses off.
Oh, that's a good one.
And I'd probably be up in heaven fucking looking at them laughing.
Oh yeah, is there a heaven? Do you think there's anything?
Okay, so your religion's a weird one. I believe that there's a higher power. I don't know if it's God. We just released a T-shirt basically that says God is a woman. Is she a woman? Is she a man? Who knows? Have you seen her? I don't know. I haven't seen her. But I do believe that it's a higher power out there. Yeah. Maybe it's a universe. And I do believe that we go to somewhere potentially better when we pass on. I'd like to believe that.
Yeah, I like that. Hey, Marc Moore, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Dom. Thanks for all you're doing in the space too, mate. These conversations are important.